Tradition and the Individual Talent by T.S.Eliot. It was published in 1919. It is a literary essay published in The Egoist and also published in The Sacred Wood, Essays on Poetry and Criticism in 1920. And in this essay, T.S. Eliot explains what tradition means in literature, the role of the poet's individuality, and how emotion and impersonality work in poetry. He challenges the romantic idea that poetry is the expression of the poet's personal feelings and says instead that poetry is an impersonal art rooted in tradition and universal emotion. And the essay has three main parts: the concept of tradition, the theory of impersonal poetry, the role of the poet, and the poet's mind. Eliot gives some modern meaning to tradition. He says tradition is not copying the past, but having a historical sense and awareness of the great works that came before and how they all connect. Tradition cannot be inherited, and if you want it, you must obtain it by great labor. A poet must have what Eliot calls a historical sense. That means the poet must be aware of the literature of the past, the literature of the present, and how both exist together in a single tradition. Historical sense makes a poet timeless and temporal. He belongs to both the past and the present. When a new poet creates a new work, it does not stand alone. It changes how we see the entire tradition before it. Thus, tradition is not static but living and changing. The past should be altered by the present as much as the present is directed by the past. Eliot balances tradition with individual talent. He says that a great poet must develop his individual talent within the context of tradition. Personal versus impersonal poetry. Eliot rejects the romantic belief that poetry is emotionally personal. He says a good poet should not express his personal emotion but universal emotion through art. Poetry is not a tunnel of emotion but an escape from emotion. Theory of impersonality in art. The catalyst theory. Eliot uses a scientific analogy to explain the poet's role. He compares the poet's mind to a catalyst in a chemical reaction. When oxygen and sulfur dioxide combine to form sulfuric acid, platinum acts as a catalyst. It helps the reaction but remains unchanged. Likewise, the poet's mind combines emotions and experience to create poetry, but the poet's own personality should not be appear in the poem. The poet must become impersonal, separating personal feelings from poetic creation. The focus should be on the poem itself, not on the poet. And great poetry does not come from personal emotions but from the transformation of emotion into art. And according to the poet, the ideal poet is a part of the great tradition, a person with historical sense, and impersonal and objective in his art, and capable of transforming personal feelings into universal poetry. Thanks for watching.